Hello, everyone, and welcome to this podcast called "How do you really build a good plan for integrating technology in the classroom?" It's a very short and sweet title. I'm here with Phil from Tablet Academy, and before I let Phil introduce himself, my name is Rasmus. I come from Lenovo. I look after all of our services and solutions for education throughout Europe, Middle East, and Africa. And a few years back, Lenovo ventured into a new route. We decided to think about, beyond the device, what does it really take to make technology work and matter in education? And one of the things that we decided to do and do well was to support teachers in integrating technology in a better way. And to do that, we had to go out and find the best partners we could. Tablet Academy, TA, is a global partner for us. They're present in more than 40 countries. And I'm here today with Phil from Tablet Academy. And he's a true expert and a former educator. Could you introduce yourself, Phil?
Thanks, Rasmus. Yes, I started off as teacher, and now in my role at TA, I'm the Associate Director of Strategy and Transformation. What does that mean? Well, I work with schools, colleges, universities to have a strategic approach to how they're going to use technology for supporting teaching and learning, but also the operations side of their institution. So it's been great to work alongside Lenovo to be able to see the impact of the devices and the technology actually making a difference for the lives of the teachers and the students and the staff in those organizations.
Yeah, and we're very happy to partner up with you. And I think there is only one thing to do, is to jump straight into the awkward question. So what is the worst professional development plan that you've ever seen? Because I know you've seen a lot.
Well, the worst plan is one where there isn't a plan. It's just staff decide, oh, we should have a IT training session today. And I get it, having been an educator and a coordinator of PD in a school myself, when is the time to fit in training? You've got like brief windows after school, perhaps in a staff meeting, you've got limited training days, and they're very precious because you've got to cover lots of mandatory content and so many different things that you need to cover on a training day. Oh, what could we put on the afternoon of the training day? Oh, let's do a bit of an IT session. What are we going to do? Oh, we could just do, a session on SharePoint or OneNote. And so it's very tools focused. It's not very well considered of how the staff are going to apply that content. It's not really considered how that will impact teaching and learning. And sometimes, because they're just ad hoc and you want to just squeeze it in part of the day, all staff are just put in a big room with a projector, someone walking through how to do various things, and there's not even opportunity to understand how it's relevant to what you're trying to do, or opportunity to be hands-on and explore those tools. And so it's just an ad hoc session that's been scheduled in. Now, for all those organising that, I understand why you're doing that, but hopefully today we can give you a few tips about how you can improve that and have more of an impact.
Yeah, so that's a really good and elaborate answer. So having said what the worst PD plan you've ever seen is, so what is the best one? Can you describe that?
Really good question. I think part of that is understanding the needs of the people attending the training, because too often people have a negative perception of technology training because sometimes it's just delivered by technical experts. And with all due respect to technical experts, they may not always fully understand how that applies in the classroom with students, how that fits with the teaching and learning approaches of the school. So I think it's got to start further back than, what can we do for an EdTech training session, is thinking about the priorities of the school around teaching and learning and how they want to support learners, perhaps with accessibility needs, with literacy, with numeracy, with helping make the school more efficient, and thinking about the pedagogy approach to how these training sessions are going to support the teachers with their students. Once that bigger picture is in play, where technology should really have its impact is through supporting, enhancing, and even shaping that teaching and learning process. But if it's separated from that, the teachers see it as just another thing or just a procedural thing. Yeah, I use technology. What do you use it for? Well, emails and files, and that's all it is. Whereas to have a meaningful impact in the classroom, it has to be considered how that impacts teaching and learning. So with that in mind first, then a program can be developed to help teachers over a series of sessions be able to grow that next step, have opportunity to implement what they've learned and refine things. Things don't always go well when you're applying what you've learned in the classroom, and you need a bit of resilience. And there might be technical reasons why that's the case, or it might be that the curriculum isn't relevant. So after deciding on the teaching and learning approach, it's also really important to consider where the curriculum allows the use of technology, where it's mandated, but also how you can use it for things like efficiency, to be able to set learning tasks, provide feedback on learning tasks, being able to support students to create things in a more constructivist approach. Okay, let's see your understanding of volcanoes by creating an animation or those types of tasks, but it has to fit within the pedagogical model of the school. And so where you've got that effective training program, it's spread over a course of several sessions, it's relevant to the needs of the teachers, but also following that, it has to have just-in-time support. Because you might go to a training session, 2 hours, yeah, that was great, I think I've mastered how to use OneNote class notebooks. You then go to your class, you start teaching, and you come across, oh, how did he insert that PDF again into the page? Oh, I've forgotten. Well, it's all a bit hard now. I've looked on YouTube or something, can't find out what to do, and therefore you just give up because you haven't got that ongoing support. So it's a whole ecosystem and package, and these are just a few things to consider, but thinking about how it can be personalized for the needs of the teachers, linked with pedagogy, and be able to have that sort of sequenced program to help teachers give opportunity to apply that and get that support as they go along are some of those key ingredients.
So if I were to sum up in 3 words, I would say, you say it needs to be relevant, it needs to be just in time, and what was the last one I was
personalized
thinking?
to the
personalized,
needs.
Exactly. Those are the 3 things you would push on. So when you build that plan, who do you need to involve? And I'm just going to elaborate on that question, because would it be fair to say that there sometimes exists confirmation biases with the leadership, with some of the key tech teachers, that because they can do it or they understand it, everybody else feels the same?
You're right on the money there. So often the training is coordinated sometimes by technical people. Well, we've just rolled out these new systems and these new devices. Can you cover all these different tools or apps or processes? And that's great. We definitely need those technical people on board. But as we indicated earlier, they may not fully understand how this is going to be used by teachers for their own personal productivity and then in the classroom as well. It's one thing for me to know how to use, I don't know, Microsoft Teams as a teacher for communicating with colleagues and finding resources, but it's a whole new thing to understand how you can apply it to the teaching and learning element, setting assignments with rubrics and quizzes and seeing feedback and insights, particularly when you've got students with 30 devices in front of you. You've got a whole similar but different approach to sort of managing the classroom. So just having it by the technical people only is not enough. They're really important though, because unless their systems are robust and suitable for the needs, then there's no point doing the technology training, because it's just not going to work, and that will be the teachers just giving up. The other thing that the technical people also can provide insight to is the most effective way to do it in that context. Because you can go online and go, oh, I've seen a YouTube tutorial in doing that, but actually that doesn't quite work in our school because we've had to lock these things down or we haven't got those licenses yet. So it's important to have them on board. But I think it needs to be driven by the teaching and learning leads at the school. As we indicated earlier, that's about them understanding how they would like to see this technology used by the students, understanding the needs of the teachers and how they're going to fit that in amongst all the other busy things a teacher has to do, and also setting what that sort of baseline is. Yeah, we're going to show you lots of things today, but we're not expecting you to do them all tomorrow, but actually these core things are important. For example, we want to make sure that after this training session, you're setting assignments for students for homework. And that might be the bare minimum. Yeah, if you want to go and explore learning accelerators and reading progress, that's good. But our bare expectation for everyone is by the end of this term, you've set homework, weekly homework for your students. Then there's the school leadership. Unless they value this, then it's just going to be seen as a side project. Which is a bit of fun or engaging for the students because they're using the technology, but actually what they need to be able to have is that support from the top that this is really important for the teachers to focus on. Otherwise, again, it's not really useful. What they tend to do though is sometimes overestimate the abilities of the teachers themselves, and that's great because you need to be confident in your staff, but sometimes staff might be reluctant to go, I don't actually know how to do this, so can you just take it a few steps back so I can just get confident in the basics? And working with the teachers themselves and understanding what they actually do in the classroom is important, because what might appear what they're doing may not be what happens in the classroom. Oh, we tried that, but we had this technical issue, or we tried that, but we don't have the right setup for the devices. So having that full circle of key people providing impact is really important.
So that it sounds logical and very, very complicated in a way. So is there a good model of how you involve people in the planning? Because as a leader, managing all of this must be super complicated and difficult. And do you need to take every input into account? Or how do you do that? Is there a model that you can use, a framework, something that could guide you?
So there are a range of technology integration frameworks that you can find online. So you don't have to start from scratch, because what you want to be able to do is sequence that learning, like we sequence the learning for students as teachers so that you can build on previous understandings. You don't want to just sort of throw models out to teachers and go, oh yeah, use that in your classroom. So finding one that's relevant. For example, Microsoft has the 21st Century Learning Design, or there's the TIM Matrix, or the TPACK, or so many others like that, and you can speak to me or colleagues about those and research them online. They can help provide a structure for how you want to integrate technology. We're not saying that you have to use your devices for every lesson, for every minute of the day, but how do you have meaningful learning tasks that support the pedagogy in the classroom? That's where these frameworks can help, because they're developed by researchers and universities, and educators have applied them over many years, and there's often really useful resources that can work with that. So that's one thing, having that framework that can be supported. But also, I think it's having that sort of regular iterative approach. So you make sure the technology is in place, you can meet with the technical coordinator, you get the buy-in for the leadership about what staff development days you can use, and often schools might have a digital learning coordinator, and they can be really useful. It's joining those dots between the three so that you don't got people pulling in different directions. On one hand, you might have a director of education saying, oh, we want to focus on personalized learning where students have to write things in their book, and the director of teaching and learning for technology goes, hey, that's different. We're just trying to get people to use OneNote on this hand. So it's having that joined up approach through regular meetings and having that input to be able to have that feedback from the staff in a regular approach. We tried this, so our next day needs to be this. We're going to refine a few things because we've learned, oh, the systems need to be improved, or we've learned actually the curriculum needs to be adapted, or we've learned that we didn't have all staff on board with that last session. We need to do a bit of a recap this time. So it is a bit complex, but with anything to be effective, it has to have that review and implementation as a cycle, because typically you need people, processes, and technology. And if they're not all aligned, things aren't going to work properly.
Are you doing the hand-holding for the leaders in this process?
Well, different leaders have got different abilities to implement strategic training programs in any capacity. With all due respect, as a former teacher myself, you don't often get a lot of opportunity to be more strategic as a teacher, apart from planning your lessons over the course of the year. So then when you become a school leader, you might have different abilities or strengths in that strategic thinking capacity. That's the first thing. The technology needs to fit in with that strategic thinking. If you get that strategic thinking right, you'll be able to make informed decisions around the technology, or have people you can trust to make them. But if you haven't got a strategy, then it just becomes ad hoc, and any ad hoc project doesn't usually work very well.
So yesterday we did a podcast around a special tool that you have called the skills reviews. And the skills reviews provide a foundation, a data foundation to understand the needs of the teachers, right? Can you just, towards the end of it, we will only have a few minutes left, elaborate a little bit on what the skills reviews are and how they can help?
So going back to your first question about the worst PD plan, that's where none of the background or skills or relevance was considered for the training. And so what we developed was a digital skills review to try and understand the existing skill set of the teachers across 7 different categories. We also have a similar survey for non-teaching staff. And they've been developed around the use of Microsoft 365 and Google Workspace for Education, because they're common platforms that a lot of teachers have access to. And it's understanding the tasks that the teachers do with those tools. So one of the headings is communication. How do you communicate with colleagues? Is it sending notes? Is it sending emails? Is it Teams meetings? And each of those scores have a range of different, each of those options has a range of different scores. We're not saying you must be 3 on everything, but particularly if you're only on 0 or 1 in those categories, then there's a lot of opportunity for training that's needed there. You've got the systems, let's try and use them effectively. And particularly some of the other categories are more teaching focused, like how do you present content to students? And so understanding what teachers can currently do helps plan the training so it's relevant. And so teachers, to complete that skills review, fill in an online survey, takes about 15 or 20 minutes. Then that is calculated and the results are presented on a dashboard. And that dashboard has a school district view. So you can do this across all the schools in your group or institution or local authority, and then be able to then see average scores for each school. And that's really helpful. So you can see sort of areas of strength and areas that you need to focus on. Then there's a separate page which is narrowed down by individual school, where you can see each department or year group, and then you can target the training within the school. And then there's another page which is for each individual teacher, so you can see your areas of strengths and weakness. And the final page also shows you a filter, so you could say, I want to find across the schools the primary teachers who've got a level 1 for presenting content, and provide relevant training in CPD just for them. So it's relevant, it's meaningful, and you can plan out your CPD plan based on the results from that dashboard.
Okay, so that sounds like a really useful tool. And so all in all, it sounds like you do 3 things, right? You do the consultancy for the leaders, you provide a data foundation through the skills reviews, and of course you do the classroom PD as well. And that's what TA offers together with Lenovo. Absolutely. And the skills reviews we find is particularly useful. And so we would encourage everyone that's listening or viewing this podcast to reach out to their local Lenovo rep and have one of these. And for the moment, it's actually for free, funded by Microsoft. So if you're listening, if you're viewing, don't hold back and run to your local Lenovo rep immediately and ask for one of these. And I think with that, I'll just say thank you for coming, Phil, and giving us all of these valuable informations.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Lenovo.